You know, in my travels in education in the last 25 years or so, I've learned something for sure, that if you can't relate, you can't educate. So when you're building your culturally responsive classroom system, you have to make sure that your students feel cared for and challenged. If you're dealing with ESL students or any students from any at potential populations, you're probably going to have some language and some writing barriers. And according to Donna Beagle's research, students from at potential populations tend to come from oral rich cultures and not print rich cultures. But our environment, our standard operating procedure in education is definitely print rich. So there's already cultural tendencies that veer away from each other. There's already a cultural gap that makes it difficult for at potential students to be successful in any education arena. So as an educator, you have to care about that. You got to be aware of it and care about it, such that you have an empathy for the challenges that students are faced, not just outside the classroom, but inside the classroom too, because of the differences in cultural tendencies. Then you have to do what? Put some resources in place. Put some tools in place. Make sure you have tips for your students so that they can learn to become competent in this new environment, in this new arena, in this new culture. So one of the things that I see that's a real big mistake that a lot of folks do, especially if the teacher or the educator is from a different race or ethnicity than the students who are having these difficulties that they're serving, because those educators are such great people, they kind of step into heroism mode where they will do everything they can to compensate and help the student, but they kind of overcompensate. So they give the students the tools, they empathize, they understand, they motivate them, they're there with them, they partner with them. But that student, will fall just below the objective, just below the standard. I mean, they gave their all, but they're just below. And what those heroes will do is kind of push them up and give them that grade anyway, because they understand everything that student has done to try to meet that bar. And that heroism mode is probably the worst thing you can do for those students. It is actually a slap in the face towards their cultural tendencies and cultural differences. It's a crutch. So here's what you want to do. You don't just want to challenge your students, care for your students. You want to challenge them too. So you want to make sure that they're meeting that bar at all, at all counts. You want to hold them to excellency. Teach them the tools, give them the empathy, give them the talk, but make sure that they're meeting the bar. And one of the ways I like to do that, and here's just a simple way, it might vibe with you, might not. I give students rubrics for all of my assignments ahead of time, right? So they know that if it's a paper, that their sections in their paper need to match the sections in the rubric. So put a heading for each of those sections so I can follow your transitions and understanding your thinking better. So if they turn that paper into me and it just has the title and no section headers, then I don't even grade it. Don't even bother to look at it. I send it right back to them in Canvas. Canvas assigns an automatic 0. And I give a note and say, listen, according to APA, I like some section headers, and I want to make sure that you're including everything that the content and the requirements of the assignment call for. And more importantly, it helps your reader follow your transitions and understand your thinking a lot better. So when you, not if you, when you resubmit this assignment, text me or email me so I can change your grade. And students will go ahead and do that. They probably grumble a little, I don't know. But I know a couple of courses later, they usually contact me, hey, Dr. Miller, I really appreciate you holding me to that bar to put them section headers in. My other instructors are saying that my papers are so thorough and so complete, and I've seen an increase in my grades. So my point is this. I care for them and understand cultural differences and tendencies and gaps and put tools and resources and motivations in place for them. But I'm going to hold you to that bar. Just because you have that gap, I'm going to hold you to that bar. As a matter of fact, because you have that gap, I'm going to hold you to that bar even more. Why? Because if I don't, then I kind of disrespect that cultural gap and that cultural tendency by it's a microaggression, saying that because you have that cultural gap and cultural tendency that you can't reach the bar. So I'm going to compensate for you. So that's the worst mistake you can do. You don't want to throw out a microaggression. You don't want to devalue that student. You want to get them to where they need to be. Put the tools in place, but get them where they need to be. Cared for and challenged.